All right, let's get into our Money Matters feature. This is where we talk things money right here on our show because, hey, we always, don't talk about it. Don't say anything about it. We don't talk about money because land ownership in Africa is a complex issue deeply rooted in the legacy of colonialism and apartheid. While many African nations have undertaken land reform efforts since gaining independence, significant imbalance persists, particularly in Southern Africa. These imbalances often manifest as a disproportionate amount of land being held by a minority population, while the majority struggle to access that land. So we sometimes look at land from that colonial perspective, but also culturally, we hold on to land in a very emotional way. Land is not just a financial asset, it's a heritage, it's an identity, it's a form of family security. And the question is how do we unlock a broader access to property ownership? How do we help more Africans build wealth and secure futures through land? And does it come with its own risk of mismanagement, disputes, and lack of clear ownership? Thato TT Mbha is master practitioner in real estate and also founder of Black Real Estate. Hey TT, welcome on the show.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm super good. I'm super good. I'm happy because we're speaking about land. Because many of us, when we look at land, we usually see it from afar. You know, it's like that thing, a dream. But land is part of our heritage. But more so, it's difficult to attach yourself to land when most of the time you've had your ancestors really seeing land as something that's stolen from them. How do we claim back this land thing, especially from a modern lens of, hey, it's all about money?
Uh, the conversation around land is a very tricky and sensitive one, especially for us African people, because of the history that we our painful history in South Africa, where obviously a lot of our black grandfathers and grandmothers unfortunately lost the land due to the apartheid regime at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're trying to catch up, on all lost ground over the years. And I think the biggest challenge around the appropriation of land in South Africa is the fact that a lot of people don't actually have a plan for that land. You're getting a lot of people reclaiming land in different villages and rural areas across South Africa. But now the biggest challenge is that you reclaim that land and you've got no plan around that land. You end up, the land ends up actually being useless to them
Mm-hmm.
if they don't have a plan in terms of how are they going to make money and profits out of that land. And I think that's something that we need to educate our people about when it comes to the concept of farming. There's a lot of money and there's a lot of farming as an industry contributes quite significantly to our GDP as a country. And I think those are things that we need to kind of start looking at as Africans. Most of us are exposed in farming from an employee point of view, where you are a
Mm-hmm.
farm worker and that's all you are, and you're actually making money for a lot of these farming entities in and around South Africa. So I think there's a basic fundamental that we need to just to get out of there to say, yes, you've got the land, you've reclaimed the land. Now what? What's the next step?
Mm. Let's talk about that planning. What should you be thinking about when acquiring land?
Look, land is part of what we call real estate, and obviously, there's a lot of real estate opportunities within that. You could either decide to become a farmer and actually make a business out of that, where you supply retailers like your Woolies and Pick and Pays of this world in terms
Mm-hmm.
of fruits and vegetables and livestock. Or you could look at it from a developer's point of view, where you could actually decide to turn that land into a development of sorts, whether it's a shopping a center, whether it's a residential estate for living purposes. There's a lot you can do, but you need to have a plan to say what is the best use for this land depending on
Mm.
where you are located as well. If the soil is good enough for you to farm, then maybe you need to get into that industry where you end up supplying all these big retailers, because at the end of the day someone is supplying them and someone has been supplying them for all these years. But you'll find that there's not a lot of black farmers who are actually supplying these big retailers out there.
You know, and what we do most of the time when we acquire land, we have that emotional attachment. We don't think of it in a practical way. And what we do, we don't buy land collectively. At times we go on it alone, and it becomes a huge burden. Should we start thinking about collaborating when it comes to land acquisitions, doing it more as a business transaction than that emotive way that we're so used to thinking about land?
We actually have no choice if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand our history as Africans, we are obviously on the back foot from a financial point of view. So most of us can't afford to go alone as individuals to go acquire some of these land portions or opportunities that are out there. So the power of coming together is what we need to be quite deliberate and unapologetic about. I mean, the concept of stokvels is something that Black people have been doing for many years.
Yeah.
And if you look at how a lot of people within Stokvels have been able to live and survive because of that collective bargaining power that Stokvels bring. You find people who've got Stokvels that are for traveling, groceries, for school fees, whatever the cause is. But I think when it comes to real estate and property, not a lot of Stokvels think that far and wide. And I think that's where they need to kind of start positioning themselves. The bigger collective has greater power in terms of bargaining when it comes to negotiating rates, for example, with the banks. They can get better interest rates as a collective because of the power that they carry. And I think that's a big opportunity for a lot of us Africans, is the concept of stokvels, what they call crowdfunding in these modern day terms. It's still a
Okay.
stokvel.
Yeah.
It's the ability to come together for a particular common cause. So if we can gather together as a bunch of people who are united and agree on an amount that we're going to contribute on a monthly basis for a particular cause, I think we'll get to grow the importance of owning land in South Africa, but not just owning the land, but turning the land into an asset. And like you're saying, we need to get out of this realm of being emotionally connected to land because it was your grandfather's land and you want to keep it on, but
Mm.
there's no use for it as an asset. It's actually becoming more of a liability than anything else.
Mm. Let's look at the challenges of land, the cost that could be attached to it. What should we be looking out for in that?
I mean, the basic things to look out for, of course, is interest rates. Where are we at in terms of interest rates? And like I said earlier on, the power of the numbers gives you that bargaining power to go to the bank to negotiate better interest rates for yourself as a collective. But
Mm.
I just think people need to understand the ins and outs of buying property and the legalities that are involved and the conditions that come with it. First of all, you need to look at the zoning. The land that you're getting. What is it currently zoned for? Is it zoned for the intentions that you want to go into, or you still have to rezone? The whole concept of rezoning land is also another big process. It can take as long as 3 years to rezone land, and any developer will tell you that that's probably the biggest headache. A lot of developers would normally, when they get to acquire land, it's because it's already zoned for a particular purpose. There's different zoning. I mean, with farms, normally it's zoned for what we call agricultural holding, which is an AH. But then you'll find that you'll get that land and you want to create an office park out of it. You'll need business rights, or it needs to be zoned for business rights. Or if you want to do a block of apartments, you need to get the right zoning, whether it's going to be residential 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So those are things that we need to educate our people, because a lot of our people get to acquire land and they realize down the line that it's zoned for something completely different, and then there's an extra cost of actually rezoning it. Now there's also the whole concept of transferring costs and the conveyancing of this land. You buy land from an existing landowner or landlord at the time. There's conveyancing and costs that come with it, and a lot of people don't understand that there are costs. So anything less than 1.1 million,
Mm-hmm.
there's no transfer duty. But anything more than 1.1 million and above, then there's a sliding scale in terms of how much transfer costs you
Okay.
pay towards that acquisition of that land. And these
Mm-hmm.
are things that people get surprised and shocked about later on in the transaction, because most of the estate agents don't explain that process quite thoroughly. And that's what we are good at as Black real estate, is that we take our clients through that journey of understanding the ins and outs and the costs that are involved in acquiring a property, so that our clients are ready. There's rates and taxes that
Mm-hmm.
that come with that you unfortunately have to pay on a monthly basis towards the municipality
All
in
right,
question.
let's take a bit of a break. You're helping us in a major way there. We'll continue. And I'd like to look at the more personal views of land and real estate, especially when it comes to maintaining and managing that land after acquiring. But we'll look at that after the break.
The Upside, your afternoons just got even better.
Bantu Biko Street by Simpiwe Dana. Ndi ready. Simpiwe, 20 years in song. So what emotions come up when you hear that, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years now?
It almost feels like no time has passed, eh? I just, I know obviously time has passed, but I don't feel it. Even about my age, I'm 45. I always get shocked when I think, oh my God, in 5 years' time, I'll be 50. Because for me as an artist, it's almost like when it comes to certain things, time stands still. And as a result, you find that a lot of artists are very childlike, which, it helps them to always have a fresh approach to issues.
I tell you what, I'm feeling healed just by that.
We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are The Upside. Get set and be ready to go. On the move with Palisatawo and Benjamin Mushatama.
Hey, this is when we don't get wishy-washy about money. We get really practical on our Money Matters feature, and we're chatting on land. Yes, land is all about money, believe it or not. It's the value of that land that makes it a treasure. And Thato, known as TT, is joining us. That's Thato Mbha, master practitioner in real estate, founder of a Black Real Estate, is joining us on the line. In fact, his screen is in with us, and he's live with us on our live stream. If you don't know about our live stream, go to our Channel Africa Facebook page. You'll find it, or go to our YouTube page and you'll find it. Then you'll see him there with the Golden Gate Bridge behind him. I don't know about your background, TT, man. I thought you would have maybe an African landscape there in the background. I'm judging you.
But land is land, eh? Don't forget that the sea is part of land.
Okay, cool, man. Let's talk a little bit about management, right? You spoke a little bit earlier about stokvels, right? Over time, what if we are all contributing to a land fund, and one of us starts not having the funds, and maybe there's like, okay, I can't do it anymore because I've lost a job. How do people handle those issues?
Well, first of all, in any stokvel or crowdfunding arrangement, you need to have a constitution that obviously drives the mandate of the particular stokvel.
Okay.
So that constitution, in that constitution, you need to stipulate exit clauses that allow people to exit, because we also need to appreciate the fact that life happens. Things happen that you don't plan for. People get retrenched, people die, people get sick, and so you need to accommodate for such in like things that can happen that are unplanned, in eventualities. And so through that constitution, you are able to devise a plan that will work out your investment at the time of exit, and the value of that. And so in most instances, you'll find that someone will get a payout that will allow them to continue with their life. And there's penalties that come with that. There's interest that comes with that. So it's all upon the constitution of each stokvel, which I'm hoping and praying that most stokvels have. Because if you don't have a constitution that drives your engagement and contributions, then you're going to find yourself in situations where a lot of the guys now want to exit, but they don't know what to do because they're stuck, basically. So, I've experienced quite a lot of these stokvels where you find people wanting to exit 6 months down the line, and they've contributed a certain amount towards that over the period. And there's a formula that you can work out for exit strategies like that. Just as much as there are people who want to pay their contributions for the year
Mm.
instead of paying every month. So you obviously have to work that out into the formula of your constitution as a stock firm.
And in terms of ownership, right? Once you own the land, managing land, whether it's real estate or land for agricultural purposes, is so important. Could you give us some key issues that you see as important when it comes to that management process?
Sorry, say that again.
Just manage the management process. Could you give us some key areas in which we can work on to efficiently manage our ownership of that land? Because you don't want to be in a situation whereby you're losing good value of real estate because you're not looking at after the infrastructure, or you're actually creating some form of depreciation because of mismanagement.
Right. So I think one of the advices I can give any property stockfile is that in their membership they must make sure that there's someone who has experience in property as part of their stockfile, because then their vested interests are always catered for. So, for example, I'm part of quite a few property stockfiles because I'm a property practitioner myself. So
Okay.
it makes it easier for me to seek opportunities for the stockfiles, but also to highlight issues that might arise over time from a management and maintenance point of view. And I think it's a very valid point that you are raising. Maintenance is a costly exercise. Maintaining a building or a structure is not cheap. And if you don't maintain it consistently enough, it ends up becoming a cost over time. And I think those are things that you need to obviously look out for. Some stockfiles appoint a managing agent whom they pay a retainer to make sure that all their things are managed quite well in terms of collecting if they're a landlord and they've got tenants. But they also look after the building in terms of maintenance, in terms of insurance. So you can either appoint a managing agent who's a professional that's appointed to look after your interests, or you can be smarter and make sure that you've got someone who is in property as part of your stockfile. Like a lot of stockfiles want me to be part of that because they know that I will always make sure that we are above board in terms of maintenance, in terms of managing our books, in terms of making sure that the asset, we are able to sweat it. Because at the end of the day, we're going into this investment space to sweat the asset so that there's profits and margins that are realized for all investors or everybody that's part of the stockfile. There has to be value that you are realizing through management and making sure that you've put in the right tools to make sure that that asset appreciates over time instead of depreciating.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about evaluation as we wrap up. Evaluating that property over time while you have ownership over it. That must be key.
Look, also you need to make sure that in your investment you obviously invest back into that asset in terms of acquiring the right equipment for farming if you're in the farming space. Evaluating it over time. I would always encourage people to do an evaluation once a year so you can see if your property is appreciating or depreciating, if your assets are actually adding value to your bigger consortium of investment.
Mm-hmm.
You find that in some instances, a lot of guys start buying machinery that also becomes obsolete over time and not current for the purposes that are intended. And then obviously they depreciate over time and obviously reduce the value of your asset base in your investment plan. So it's always important to evaluate your asset once a year. Get a property evaluator, get a professional property evaluator that's qualified and accredited by the banks, because the day you want to sell that property, the bank will bring in those same evaluators to come and evaluate your piece of land or your assets. So it's very important. In fact, if you can do it twice a year, or you can afford to do it twice a year, even better, because then you're maintaining consistency of valuing your asset twice a year, every 6 months. That's what we do in our property stockfiles. Some people do it once a year, but I suggest, highly recommend that you do it twice a year, because things change, seasons change as well.
Yeah, well,
an evaluation in summer might be different to the one you might do in winter.
Well, TT, thank you for joining us. We usually see you as a socialite, but we saw the serious side of you today, which was great to always talk to you about these serious matters. Where can we find you when it comes to black real estate? Quickly as we wrap up.
Thank you. So I'm not a socialite. I'm a social entrepreneur. It's TT Mbha all over social media. TT Mbha.
Yeah, Mara, we see you all everywhere, man. So, hey.
Social entrepreneur, not socialite. Socialites don't make money.
All right, man. Cheers. Thank you so much, mate.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.